What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and this will be an advanced Revit family course, and the topic of this course will be a window family. Now, in this course, I'm going to be showing you everything you need to know about creating a window family and additional families that you're going to be using to help you along the way. So here I have the finished product. This is the window family, and maybe I can go here into realistic to show it a bit better. So we have a nice window family. We've got some nice profiles. We've got this nice handle that's a nested family inside of our window. When we go into level 1, you're going to notice that we have a profile loaded in over here. Now it's a simplified profile, but the idea of this is to teach you how to create a separate profile family that you can load in, so you can have all of those necessary chambers that are usually part of a window frame profile. Now, this is not going to be some fancy window that you use to impress your friends. This is something it's really professional, and the idea behind this course is to create a course that covers everything you need to know about creating a window in Revit, but not only to make it look nice, but also to make it work. And this is something that you can get hired by some manufacturer to create window families for them, maybe some window manufacturer, and then they need window families of their product. So that's why that profile is really important. It needs to look very good. Also, we added some parameters so you can change the depth offset, so the position in the wall. So if we go maybe here into level 1, if we change this, you're going to see that we can actually change the position of the window in the wall. This is something that you rarely get with families. Actually, I've never seen this in any window families that I ever used, and it's really important to be able to position your window in the wall in place around all of those thermal layers in your wall, so you don't get any thermal bridges inside of your building. Also, we're creating this as a separate family, so that's a handle family that we're going to be creating. Also, if I go over here, this is the family. So we're creating a bunch of parameters. If I go here into family types, you're going to see that we have a lot of parameters created over here, and I'm going to be showing you all of that. And then we're going to be creating types. So once you load this window into your project, you can just go ahead over here, select it, and maybe change the type. Make it from a small PVC window and a large aluminum window. And as you can see, the material and the dimensions of the window changed automatically. Okay, so let's get started. To start our window, let's start off by picking a correct template to use. Now here I'm just in an architectural project, and we're going to be using this project along the way just to demonstrate some stuff and later on to load in the window that we create. But for now, let's choose a template and start our window family. So I'm just going to go here to File, and then go to New, and you get this drop menu, and here we have the family option. Just click there, and here we have some family templates. Now you're going to notice that all of these say metric before the name of the template, and if you prefer using Imperial or you want to use Imperial, you just need to go back one level, and you get here and you find English or English_I. So this, where it says I, that really means that it's Imperial. So if you choose one of these templates, you're going to get Imperial templates. And if you just go back and use the regular English, you're going to get metric templates. So just pick the one that you need to use for your, for the units you want to use. Now to choose a template for a window family, let's just scroll down and see what we have over here. So as you can see over here, we have some 3 templates for our metric window family. So we have a regular metric window, we have a metric window with trim, and we have a metric window for curtain walls. Now, if you want to create a metric window for curtain walls, this is the one you're going to be using. We're just going to be placing this window on a regular wall. So let's just choose one of these two. And what's the difference between these two? Well, it's just in the trim, and if I just open up this regular metric window, let me show you what that trim looks like. So if you open up this family, you're going to notice that we have our hole in the wall for our window, and just above it over here, you're going to see that we have some geometry, and if we select it, it's just going to say over here in the properties, trim. And if I just go to 3D and orbit to the other side, like so, you're going to notice that we have this window trim. Now, if you're creating a window that needs to have window trim that looks kind of like this, I suggest you use this template, and in any other case, just use the regular window template. So I'm just going to close off this family because we're just going to be creating a regular window. We're back to our project, but let's start our window family. So just go here to New, Family, and let's scroll all the way down and choose the metric window family. Now we're back at that family template, and just notice here we don't really have that trim. We only have this hole in the wall for our window. Now when you're choosing a template for your family, in this case for window, you're going to get with that template some of the basic elements and settings that you need to create that particular family. Now in this case, if you're creating a window, I'm guessing you're going to have a hole in the wall and then a window in that place. So Revit knows that, and that's why we get this template, and we get some constraints along the way. So the first thing we need to create our window is of course a wall in which we're going to be placing that window. So we get to this wall, and if we select it, it's just going to say here in the properties, walls, and we have only one wall. Then we have these labels for the exterior and interior. That's just going to help us just to figure out the orientation of this window when we create it over here. And then we have this width parameter, and it's actually just a dimension line, and when you have your dimension line with a name like this, that means it's a parametric dimension. So we have this width of the window, and if we maybe go to the exterior or interior side, let's go to the exterior, you're going to notice that we have the height of the window as well. And below that, we have a default sill height. So this is just the offset from the floor, or your reference level in this case, up to the lowest part of your window or your sill, or sill height. That's why it's called a sill height parameter. Now to see how to use these parameters or where to use these parameters, you really need to go over here and find the family types dialog. Now just hit this button and you get your family types dialog, and it looks like this. This is where we can take a look at all of the parameters that come with this family. So here for the dimensions, we have parameters for the height and the width, and they're currently set to 1500 and 1000, and we also have that default sill height that's currently at 800. So I'm just going to close this off for a second, and let's just go into 3D just to view this window in 3D, and let's just orbit around, and I'm just going to place it like this here in the right portion of the screen. Then I'm going to go back and start the family types dialog and move it in the left portion of the screen, and now we can play around with our family, or flex it as it's called in Revit. So you're basically just testing out your parameters. So let's go to the height parameter and let's change it from 1500 to 1200, and let's change the width from 1000 to, I don't know, 1400, and for the default sill height, let's change it to, I don't know, something like maybe 700, and just hit apply, and as you can see, the whole window changed. So it changed the height down to 700, and it changed these parameters for the height and width, and now as you can see, the width is larger than the height. Now we can just go back here and set it back to 1500 by 1000, or you can maybe change them and leave it at that. It doesn't really matter. The point of parametric families is the fact that you're going to be able to change them along the way if you so choose. So I'm just going to hit apply and OK. And if we go over here, hover over this hole, and we just hit tab a few times, you're going to be able to select a rectangle like this over here. And as you can see, it says opening cut. So that's something like a void that's cutting into the wall. Now that's what's creating a hole in the wall. And if I hit delete, it's just going to disappear. Now let's go back, because we usually need this hole in the wall. Now let's say you want to maybe make some additional modifications to the wall on which your window is going to be placed. Maybe we want to cut out maybe something over here in the wall, and let's just go to the exterior side and let's create a void that's going to be cutting through this wall. So I'm just going to go here to create void forms, void extrusion, and then just create a rectangle kind of like this. And if we just go into 3D, yeah, that's where that rectangle is. And let's just hit finish. And maybe let's say we want to cut in the wall like this. And if I go here to the cut tool, cut geometry, select the wall that I want to cut, select this void, I'm going to have this warning pop out, and it says a family cannot have an opening and a cut in the same host. So what does that mean? So once we have a template for a window that has this here, let's find it, this here opening, we cannot really create any voids that are cutting through the wall. So if we want to make some elaborate cuts into our wall, maybe not just a rectangle, simple rectangle, maybe something more like this over here, we need to delete this opening. Now we can cut through with this void. So I can go here to cut geometry, cut the wall, cut this, but now we're left with no hole for our window. So we would have to fix that just by going maybe to the exterior side and creating another void, or sorry, just a create void extrusion, and just create a rectangle like this. Just make sure it matches that opening that we had. And if I just go finish, go into 3D, just to double check how it looks like. Yeah, I think that looks right. So now if I go cut and cut this, as you can see now it works. So we have that opening in the wall as well as this little cut over here that maybe we need for our window. Now, in this case, I don't really need it. I just want to show you that if you want to make some additional cuts to the wall, that's how you do it. And I'm just going to hit undo a few times until we go back to our just opening cut. Now I'm going to delete this void as well. Now, before we start modeling our window family, I suggest you do something that I always do before I start creating a new family, and that's check out some existing families of that type just to get some basic knowledge on how they work. Now, I'm just going to go here to this project that we have and just create a simple wall like so. Center it a bit, zoom in, and let's place a couple of windows over here. So I'm just going to go to the window, and here I'm going to use this M fixed. This is the window that comes, as far as I know, with most Revit templates. And also I'm going to add maybe this window. This is a bit of a more complex window, and this is something that, as far as I know, comes with the latest version, Revit 2019, possibly Revit 2018, with the architectural template. Now, when we look at these two windows, you're going to notice something. If I zoom in, this window glass part is going to be on the outside of the window, and or on the exterior side. And if we go over here as well, it's going to be on the exterior side. And it doesn't matter really if I go and perhaps select this wall and change it to something a bit thicker. Let's go with something like this. Yeah, so I changed the thickness of the wall, but still, the glass part is glued to the exterior side. Same thing with this window. It's glued to the exterior side, so no matter the thickness of our wall, this is always going to stay at the same place at the exterior of our wall. But if I go and if I look at my my window in my room where I'm recording this, as you can see over here, a window is kind of placed in the middle of the wall. So my guess is that window is placed somewhere along where the insulation material is, where the thermal insulation inside of the wall, that layer. So that's where we place the window, so we don't get any cold bridges, so everything's kind of nicely isolated. And I would like to replicate something like that in Revit, and that's not really something that we're getting in this case. If I go over here and set this to fine, you're going to notice that this window is actually placed on the finish of this wall. So maybe if I turn this to realistic, yeah, so we've got some finish brick on the outside, and the wall is just glued to that, and that's not something I would like to have. I would like to be able to adjust it to be over here on the thermal insulation layer. So how do we do that? Well, let's go here back to our window family, and let's go to the reference level or the floor plan. And here you're going to notice that we have this wall, and it's currently a generic 200 millimeter wall. We can set it maybe to 300 millimeter, doesn't really matter. You should have your windows work with both thicker and thinner walls. Let's just go with 300 millimeters for this one, but in reality it shouldn't really be that different. Now, to be able to set basically our window placement in depth of this wall, we need to add a reference plane on which we're going to be hosting that window, and we need to be able to set the position of that reference plane. Now, don't worry if this sounds very confusing at the moment. We're going to make it a lot simpler in a moment. So I'm just going to go here to the Create tab, and here we have a reference plane. Now, we already have some reference planes over here, and if you don't know what reference planes are, the simplest way to explain them, they are just some sort of a construction on which we're placing our geometry. They're kind of like a skeleton, and then we place our geometry on it, and reference planes can be parameterized, like here where we can change the width, and then along with these reference planes, our holes will change as well. Now, because this is constrained, it doesn't allow me to do this, so I'm just going to go back, but you just notice that the wall moved with that thing. Okay, so let's create a reference plane here. So just go to create, reference plane, and I'm just going to place it here, just somewhere along the inside of this wall, just like that. Just make sure that it's not overlapping with the center line, because it's just going to make it a bit easier to work with it if it's not overlapping with this one. Now we need to name this reference plane, so let's just call it window. Window ref plane. And if I just hit enter, there we go. So if we select it, it says window ref plane. And if I hover over the exterior part of this wall and hit tab once, and if I select this reference plane that we have over here, as you can see, it says here reference plane and the properties. You can always see what you've selected in the properties panel like this. And it says reference plane, and here if we zoom in, it's called exterior. Also over here under the name, it says exterior. So this is the exterior reference plane. So this is that skeleton, as I said, or some sort of a construction for our geometry. So that's always going to be glued to the exterior side of your wall. So if you have a reference plane over here, so anything that you host on that reference plane, when you load it back into Revit and place it on some wall, this is always going to be the exterior face of that wall. So what I'm going to do now is go and create a parameter that's going to allow us to change this distance between the exterior face of the wall and our reference plane on which we're going to be placing our window or hosting our window. So for that, you need to go here to the dimension tool, align the dimension, or as you can see over here, we have a shortcut DI. So just click DI and you just hover over here, over this finish face exterior, hit tab once to be able to select that reference plane. And once you hit tab, it's going to say over here, as you can see, reference planes, reference plane, exterior reference. So that's the one we want to use, and we click there, and then we click on it's called window reference plane. And just click again and place it over here. Now you're always going to be placing these parameters or these dimensions going from the fixed one to the one that you want to move. So we want this one to be able to move, so we start from the one that's going to be fixed, this exterior one, and then we lock it to the one that's going to be moving, this window reference plane. And now to change this from a regular dimension into a parameter, we need to select it. Go here to label dimensions, you have label, and then we have this drop menu. If I open this drop menu up, you're going to see that here we have a list of our existing parameters. So we have that sill height, we have the rough height or the rough width, as well as the width. Now, if you want to use one of the existing parameters to set for your new parameter, you would find it over here and then select it. But in this case, we want to create a new parameter for this offset, I guess you would call it a depth offset away from the exterior side. So we go over here and we create a new parameter. So you get your parameter properties dialog, and it's a dimensions parameter, and here you just type in the name of the parameter. So for this one, we're just going to type in a depth offset. And for the type of the parameter, is going to be a type parameter or an instance parameter. Now to explain the difference between the type parameter and an instance parameter, I've created this family just for the demonstration. Now you notice that we have, this is one family and it's just been copied 3 times in this project. So we have a rectangle over here, and here we have a circle. They're both extrusions. Now this rectangle, the material for this rectangle has been set as a parameter, and this is a type parameter. Meanwhile, our circle has been set to another parameter, and this was an instance parameter. So what you're going to notice now is if I select this family, and if I go here to the properties panel, over here, maybe let me just expand it a bit just to see more stuff. Okay, so here for materials and finishes, we have instance. So that's just how I named the parameter for the material for our circle. And here, if I go into edit type, we have this type parameter. So to set the type parameter, you really need to go into type properties. So you need to select the family and go here into edit type. And to set a parameter that's just an instance parameter, you just need to select the family, and here in the properties panel, it's just going to appear over here. Now, if it's a material, it's going to appear under materials, and if it's a dimension, it's going to appear under dimensions. And if it's something else, you're going to get another category. Now, if we choose to maybe change the material, so let's change first the type material. So go here into edit type, we find our type material, that's the material that's applied to the rectangle, and if I go over here, search for a material, let's search for some blue material, for example. And let's see, okay, we have some blue aluminum, and let's just hit apply, okay, and now it says it's been loaded in as a type parameter. Let's hit apply, okay, and if I deselect it, you're going to notice that this material is set to all three families. So as many of these families as you have in your project, if you have a parameter that's set to a type parameter, it's going to create changes for all of those families. So each one, you make a change to just one of them, it's just going to carry on to all other. And if I select it again, and if I go here to my instance parameter, the material that has been set to this circle over here, and if I just go to change it, maybe go here, and let's search for something, let's go with red, and let's find red aluminum, okay, hit apply, go okay, deselect it, and you're going to notice that only this family changed, these two didn't. So instance parameter is something that will change only on that family that you've selected and edited. I can select now this family, and again, this instance parameter, as you can see, it has not been set because we only set it over here. But if I go here into edit type, the type parameter stays the same. And again, I can change it over here. I can maybe go to, I don't know, green. Let's see, do we have something green? Okay, green plastic. Apply, okay, apply again, okay, and it changed again for all three. So it doesn't matter which one you select, it's just going to change for all. So let's select this one and maybe change the instance parameter, so we can go over here, go with, I don't know, yellow. Okay, here we have this parking strip yellow, and it's changed only for that one. So depending on what kind of changes you're planning on making to your families, as far as parameters, you would set them either to an instance parameter or a type parameter. So in this case, I'm going to choose an instance parameter. The reason for this is I want to be able to use this window on a couple of different walls in my project, and maybe the walls will have different structures, different thicknesses, so maybe the position or in depth of the wall, the window position in the wall will be different according to the different thicknesses of the wall. So that's why I want to have the ability to change that manually for each individual window. So I'm just going to set that to instance parameter and hit OK. Now, we always like to test this out or flex this, so I go over here to the family types dialog, and I got a pop-up that's just reminding me to save this project, and I'm going to take its advice and save it maybe on desktop. So let's call this window. Okay, hit save, and here we are in the family types. So now let's maybe make this a bit smaller, move it a bit over here. So here's that depth offset. Now it just said 70 before we created a parameter. Now it says depth offset equals 70. That means it's turned into a parameter, and here it is. Here's that parameter. So let's flex it. Let's try 80, hit apply, and as you can see, it kind of moved a bit. Let's try 120 just to see a bigger change. Okay, so it works. And let's bring it back, I don't know, to 80 and hit apply. Okay, let's now start creating the first geometry for our window. Now, window profiles are usually quite complex, and to help us out with creating this window profile, I want to load in an image of an existing window profile that probably some company makes, and then I'm just going to be using that as reference. Now, to load images into your families, just go here to insert and find image. Load that in. Now you're going to get this kind kind of a warning, and it says that imported images will not be visible in projects. And now the reason for this is you're really using these images only as a reference, just to help you out. It's not going to be something that transfers to your project, and that's okay with me. For this, we're only using it as reference, as I said. So just go here, close, and then find your image. This is the one that I'm going to be using. This is just something that I found online. And we have these two. If I just move it maybe to the side a bit, as you can see here, we have two of these window profiles. And here, this one looks pretty elaborate, so that's the one that I'm going to be using. And let's select it and make it a bit smaller. And then maybe we can place it over here. Maybe make it a bit more smaller. And then let's rotate it. So just go here to rotate, and then rotate it around. Now, if you want to be really precise, now in this case, I'm not really creating a specific window according to some manufacturer, but if you're doing this for a manufacturer and you want to be really precise and they only got you an image, you can go over here to scale or just use the shortcut RE, and then you find, usually I like to find the largest dimension. In this case, it's this one that says 128. So you just click over here, then you go over here, make sure that says here graphical scale. You go there, you click the second time, and then you just type in 128. And in this case, it got a bit smaller, so I like that. And as you can see over here, the window, it closes kind of going towards this side, towards here. So I want to spin this around, just rotate it by 180 degrees, because I want my window to be opening towards the interior side. So what I'm going to do is just place it over here, just find a correct place for it, kind of like that. And okay, so I like the way this looks. And now we can use this profile to create our window. So once you've got your profile in place, or your reference image for your profile, now we can create our window profile, or our window frame. Now for that, or sorry, I should probably move this up a bit. This is the one that I want to use. Yeah, that's the better one. Okay, it looks like it's in place, and now we need to create this. Now for geometry, when creating families, you go here to the Create tab, and you have these forms. Now we have extrusion, blend, revolve, sweep, swept blend, and we have some void forms as well. Now for something like this, where we are kind of creating according to profiles, you're probably going to be best off using sweeps. So you just go here to sweep, and now we're currently in a floor plan, but for this sweep, it's going to be a vertical sweep for our vertical window on a vertical wall. And for that, we need to switch to some sort of an elevation. In this case, let's go maybe for an exterior elevation. So you just go here to the exterior, and now you need to set your work plane. Now when I go here to set work plane, I can go over here, and it says by name, pick a plane, or pick a line and use the work plane it was sketched in. Now, usually for these, I like to go by name, and because we named that reference plane that we're on, so that's the window ref plane, that's the one that we created, that's connected to our depth offset parameter. And the reason why we need to host it on this reference plane is because when it's hosted on that reference plane, it's going to move along with that reference plane. So when we move the reference plane away from the exterior of the window, the whole window frame will move as well. So if I just select this reference plane, hit OK, now we can start drawing. Now if I go over here and just start placing lines, you're going to notice that we have these weird lines, and that's not what we want to use. So I'm just going to go back a couple of times. So just make sure that you don't go into the place lines. You need to go to modify sweep and then go into sketch path. So just go sketch path, and then you can double check just to make sure that we're still in our window ref plane. Hit OK, and let's go with a rectangle. Now, because we need this to be a parametric window, that means that our window frame should stretch along with the dimensions of the height, also the width of the window, as well as the sill height. So it needs to be connected to these reference planes, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So to do that, you can go over here to this corner, and then just go to the other corner, and then just lock all of these four in place. And once they're locked in place, it's going to move along. But you don't have to do it this way. There are three ways to do it. So the second way, let's delete this for now. Just go to a rectangle, And let's just make a smaller or a larger rectangle, and then you can kind of select it and just go really close to the reference plane. It's going to highlight the reference plane, the nearest one is going to highlight in blue, and just leave it there, and then you can lock it in place. And you can do the same thing for all of the other sides, and there we go. So now it's locked in place, and we can lock it in place over here. Now, and the third one, or the final one, is using the align tool. So this is the slowest one, but sometimes it will work the best depending on the case. But I just want to show all of those, so you know, maybe if you find yourself in a situation where you want to use another method of aligning and locking elements in place, you can use it. So just go to the align tool that's over here, or use the shortcut AL, and then go like this. Lock. Always make sure you go from the skeleton or from the construction element, in this case the reference plane, then to your sketched line, and then you lock it in place. So reference plane, sketched line, lock in place, reference plane, sketched line, lock in place. Now in this case, if I go into 3D, you're going to see that here we have this kind of a rectangle that's in green, and this is where we're going to be placing our profile. But if I go here in reference plane, here's where my profile is at. It's horizontal, and this thing is vertical. So I want to switch that, and the easiest way to do that is just go here to exterior, delete this line, and now this is just going to switch to the next nearest line. In this case, it's this one. So you can just add another line over here, make sure you lock it in place, and we're done. And if I now go to the reference level, as you can see, this profile section, or this place where we're going to be placing our profile, is now at the correct spot. Now I'm just going to hit finish, and to edit the profile, just go here to edit profile. It's very logical. And now let's start drawing. Now for this, I like to turn off the thin lines, because it's easier to see these pink lines once this is off, especially when you've got a lot of line work like we have over here because of this image. So I'm just going to turn it off, and now if I start placing lines, they're too thick, so I just like to change the scale to something like this. And then as you can see, it's thick enough so we can see it, but it's not too thin, so it's obscured by the image in the background. So let's go something like this. You don't have to be overly precise, you can go like that, yeah, and you just finish it off over here. So we've got that profile done. And I know you're probably thinking about all of these window profiles, especially the new ones. They all have elaborate inside chamber designs, and I'm going to be talking about those designs a bit later. But for now, for strict geometry, you want to keep it simple. So only simple shapes like this one, no holes inside, no voids. We're going to be talking about that a bit later on, and it's easy to create, and it's just going to bring the whole size of the model down. It's going to be easier on Revit when you're using it. So just hit finish and go into 3D, hit finish again, and there we go. Now let's turn on thin lines once again just to see our profile a bit better. And now what I like to do always once I create a new element, new geometry, I like to flex it. It doesn't make sense to create too much geometry without testing it out or flexing it out, because then you maybe have to go back a couple of steps, and it always makes sense to kind of flex along the way. So just move it a bit away over here, go into family types, and here let's just test the depth offset. So let's go with 120, hit apply, and as you can see it moved. Then let's go with the height, go to, I don't know, 1700. For the width, let's go to 800, and for the default cell height, let's go to 900. Hit apply, and as you can see, it changed. If I just hit OK, there we go. So it works. Okay, I'm very happy with this. It's flexing along as it should. So now we can continue working on this, and let's create the moving part of the window. So the moving part of the window is going to be pretty similar to the fixed part of the window. So it's just going to be a simple sweep. So go to the exterior side and also host it on the same reference plane, so it moves along with the whole reference plane, with the whole depth offset. So just go here to create, go to sweep again, go to set reference plane, and just make sure that you're at window reference plane. It's usually going to remember what's the last one, the last reference plane you used, and it's going to offer you that, but I just like to double check to make sure. then just go OK. Then we go back to modify sweep, go into sketch path, and now let's go with the rectangle, and let's go like this. So go like that, and you can lock it in place on all sides. Well, it's not you can, you must. And now let's delete the top one, because here's that profile. We want that profile to fall down on this side, and let's finish this line over here, like so. And let's lock it in place. Okay, so this is finished, and or at least the path. So I'm just going to hit finish edit mode, and then let's go into edit profile, and for that it's offering us to go to a different view. As you can see in this view, we can't really see that profile. We're kind of looking at it from the side, so it doesn't make sense. So it's offering to go either to a reference level or maybe to a 3D view. So let's just go to a regular floor plan. Okay, here we are. So here's that profile, and now we need to kind of sketch it out. But as you can see, it moved. So we have a problem because this image is kind of off to the side, and I did this on purpose just to show you what to do in these cases. So you don't want to lose what you've created already with the family. So if I just go here, escape, and as you can see, I cannot finish it because it doesn't have any geometry yet. We only have the path, we don't have the profile. And I don't want to lose that path because I would have to redo it again, and that's waste of time. So what I like to do in these cases, I just select the profile, go into edit profile, and just do some silly extrusion like this, or sweep. So I'm just going to create a circle just to have some geometry to leave off. And now I can go ahead over here and move this image back in place. So this image should probably be something like this. Okay, now it's in the correct place, and we still have this sweep. Now we can edit it. So just go in here into edit sweep, and we're going to delete this silly profile that we have. So just go here into edit profile, and now we can use this image as reference once again to create the profile for our moving part of the window. So for that, let's go here with the line, and let's go maybe like that. Now you can fillet these edges. I just prefer to use simple geometry, and again, as I said, later on I'm going to be showing you how to add more complex geometry. And again, in this case, as you can see, just by using thin lines, it's very difficult to see. So I just turn off thin lines just to make it a bit easier to see all of the elements. So let's go just like that. Move over here, go, I don't know, maybe like that. Yeah, I guess this would make sense. Go like that. And now I'm just going to use the arc, start and radius. Just go at 45 degrees like this. Once it attaches to this, you just go like that, and you're finished. And I just like to go with trim and extend just to make sure that it's correct, and it is. So now we can finish it off, go into 3D. As you can see, here's our profile. Let's turn thin lines on again, go finish, and there we go. So we've got the second profile, or the moving part of the window. So if we spin around, it looks like that, and maybe we can go into shaded mode just to see it a bit better, or worse. So let's go back to hidden line. Okay, there we go. So we've got both profiles, and again, before we do anything else to this window, we need to flex it just to make sure it works well. So you just go here to your family types, open that dialog up, and then let's change the depth to 80, hit apply. Okay, nothing broke, everything works. For the height, let's bring it back to 1500. For the width, let's bring it back to 1000. And for the default cell height, let's bring it back. I think it was at 800. So just go apply. Okay, and it still works. It still looks pretty decent. So I'm happy with this, and now we can continue working. Now let's go back to reference level, and we don't really need this image anymore, so I can just delete it. And now, as I said, here usually you don't have window profiles that look like this. They're usually a lot more complex, and they have some chambers inside, and you want to have accurate representation of that in your floor plans. You want it to look realistic, but you want to keep your geometry simple so it doesn't slow down Revit all too much, especially if you're doing this for a manufacturer, because they want to distribute this to as many people as possible, and people with slower computers especially don't like complex geometry in their families. So, but they also like to have accurate details. So we can fix that by going here to annotate, and here we have an option for a detail component. So we can create a separate detail component and we can load it in over here. So it's just going to be a 2D, two-dimensional detail component that's going to only be visible in our floor plans, but it's going to give us an accurate representation of all of those chambers inside of this profile. So how do we create something like that? Well, it's super easy. We just need another family that we're going to be nesting inside of this family. Nesting basically means that you have one family that's created as a separate family, and then it's just contained within another family. So let's do that. Let's create that detail component. I'm going to go over here to File, New, and let's create a new family. Detail components are families, so just go Family. And again, we have this warning to save the project, so let's save it. And now let's go over here and let's find a template that's going to work for our detail family. So for that, let's go here with a metric detail item. Now we have detail items that are line based. That's not really something that we need for this project. So just go with a basic metric detail item. And you just go open, and this is what you get. So as you can see, it's going to be a bit different. If we go over here to 3D for our window, if we go to the Create tab, we have Extrusion, Blend, Revolve, Sweep, Swept Blend, Void Forms, Model Lines, and if we just go here to Reference Level for our detail component, you're going to notice that we don't have any of those. So we really only need lines for detail components, but we don't really have the outline for our window profile, and that's something that we need for this. So I'm going to go back here in Reference Level for this, and just select this sweep, this geometry for the outer part, and go here into Edit Sweep. Then I'm going to select the profile, go into Edit Profile, and then I'm just going to select all of these lines and go Control-C to copy them. And now I can go here to Reference Level and go Control-V and just place them over here. So now we have that outline, and we're going to be placing this outline like this in this corner over here. It's just going to make it a bit easier to align it later on when we bring it into the model. So let me just go over here and go to the Move tool, or you can use the shortcut MV, and I'm just going to select this endpoint over here and place it here in the center. Okay, so once we have this, now let's start playing around and creating all of those inside chambers for this family, or for the profile of our window. So just go back to the Create tab, go with Align, and then let's use the pick lines. Let's use the offset of, I don't know, something like 2.5 millimeters. And then let's offset this. Let's offset like that. Okay, that works. Now let's play around a bit. I don't really have a specific profile according to any specific manufacturer, so I'm just going to be kind of playing around and freestyling it, just creating something that looks okay for this. I'm just going to go with split lines. SL is the shortcut, or you can use this button over here and just create a split over here and a split over here. And once we have that, we can now go trim and extend, split this, split that, trim here, trim and extend this, trim and extend that. Okay, so we have this, and let's select these two lines, go CO for copy, or just go here to copy, and maybe copy it multiple times. So let's copy it once over here and once over here. Let's extend these lines, extend this line, and again let's go with split line or split element, split these lines here, and then again trim and extend just to bring it all together, make it look nice. And just a couple more. Yeah, there we go. So we've got some chambers going on over here. Let's say this works. We can play around with this placement, but let's say this is the detail level for our for the inside chambers of this window profile. And now we need to bring this back into the project, put it in the right place, so it will look like this is the actual profile of the window. So for that, let's go first back to reference level, and let's just finish this off, so we don't want to make any changes to this sweep. And once we've done that, we can go back to our profile. Let's first save it, so just go here to save, and we can call it window profile 1, let's call it. and let's just go save. And now just go here, load into project, and let's use the window family, not project 2. Go OK, and here you can place it. So I'm just going to place it like this, and not in the correct place, just a bit off to the side, because we need to lock it in place, and for that we need to use the align tool. Now, as you probably remember, for when we were creating the path for this sweep, I showed you 3 ways how you can lock things in place. And using the align tool was probably the least efficient one, but in this case the align tool is the only one that we can use. So let's just go with AL for align, find this reference plane, lock this in place, find this reference plane for the exterior outside of the window, and lock this in place. Okay, so now this profile is in the correct place. Now we can select it, and I can mirror it to the other side. So just go MM for mirror, or just go here to mirror pick axis, because we already have this middle line over here, so I can just pick that axis, and it's over here. Now, I always like to move it a bit away, just so I can make sure that I've locked it in place. So again, AL for align, lock this in place, and AL for align, lock this in place. And as usual, always go first with the reference plane and then with the line that you're moving. So once this is locked in place, you want to just test it out for a second. So let's go family types, and let's go with width, because this is in the floor plan, and let's change this to 1200. Hit apply, okay, and as you can see, both profiles moved with the change in the window dimensions, so that's good. And now when we look at this window, it looks correct. We have all of the detailing, but when we look at just the sweep, it's simple geometry, so it's not making the whole window too complex. The geometry isn't really too much. Okay, so we have that, and now you can do the same thing for this part. I'm not going to do it because it would be repetitive, but you get the point. You just create a new profile family, you just load it back here, and you would lock it in place probably somewhere over here to one of these lines, and then it would stay there. Okay, so once we have that, let's talk about materials for a moment. Now, to set materials in Revit, you would usually select the element that you want to change the material of, and then you would go over here, and for materials and finishes, you would find the material, go over here in this menu, you get these 3 points, this kind of a rectangle with 3 points. You click there, and you go here, you find material. You can maybe go over here to find something more specific. You load it in, and then you hit apply. Now, in this case, we're not going to be doing that, because that would just make it one material. But for example, this window, maybe it can be an aluminum window or a PVC window or a plastic window. So let's create a parameter for the material so we can change the material of the window once it's already loaded into our project. So how do you do that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go into 3D, and you just need to select both of these sweeps. So just select one, hold the control key, you get this little plus sign next to your mouse, select the second one, and there we go. So we have windows, 2 pieces. Okay, so now we need to go here to the material, and instead of choosing here this 3-pointed rectangle, we have this a bit taller rectangle that when you hover over it, it says Associate Family Parameter. So all of this whole column over here with these kind of tall rectangles is all for creating parameters for these here properties. So in this case, we have a property that's a material, and we can turn that into a parameter. So if I just click over here, you can see we can search from one of those materials that we have. In this case, we don't really have any parameters for materials. That's why this is blank, so we have none. And over here, we have this button that says New Parameter. So I'm just going to click on that, and here we can create a new parameter. Let's just call this a material parameter. It can be a type parameter or an instance parameter. In this case, let's leave it as a type parameter. Usually you would have all of the materials as type parameters. You don't really have the same window in different materials on the same building, so let's just leave it at type. Hit OK, and here we go. We have a new parameter for our material. And if I just click OK and maybe go here into a realistic view, you're going to notice that we have this default gray color. But if I go here to the family types dialog, open it up, and now we have a new parameter we have a new category, materials and finishes. Here we have a material, and now here we can search for that material, but it's added as a parameter. So that means that not only here can we set the material, but also when it's loaded into the project, the material can be changed. So let's just go here to the three dots and let's search for some PVC plastic just to make it nice and white. Let's use the flexible one, load it in, double click, hit apply, okay, and there we go. So our window has a frame out of PVC. Now we also need to add a glass material, so because this is a window, so we need glass in the window. And for that, let's just go into 3D. Let's see what this looks like. So what we can do is actually go over here and use this face over here to host our glass material on that. So because this whole thing will be moving around with our depth offset parameter, if we host something on this face, it will be moving as well with the whole geometry. So what we can do is go maybe to the interior side, zoom in a bit, and there's that little place where we can host our window glass. So what I'm going to do, go here to create, find extrusion for glass, and then go set work plane. And here you can go now for pickup plane, because this face over here doesn't really have a name, doesn't have a work plane. So you can just go pick a plane, go OK, and then hover over it, select it, and now we have that that face selected, and we're going to be hosting our extrusion on that. Now you go here to the rectangle, and you go here in the upper corner, just at the end point, and then you go all the way down to this part. And again, you get these little lock symbols, so we can lock everything in place. This will just ensure that the whole window will be, the whole glass will be stretching along with these height and width parameters. Now, once we have that, we need one more parameter for this glass, and that's a thickness parameter, or sorry, two parameters, a thickness parameter as well as a material parameter. Maybe you want to change those. So for that, let's go here for the extrusion end, and now this is another way you can create parameters. You go here, and for the extrusion end you can change it, and maybe let's go into 3D to see what that looks like. So if we finish this, as you can see, it's a very large extrusion, and here if we set this to, I don't know, 5 millimeters, it's a smaller extrusion, and we can actually turn that into a parameter. So let's just go over here, associate family parameter, and let's find something for our glass. So we're not going to be using any of these. We need a new parameter, so just go new, and this can be both or a type or an instance. I think the thickness of glass should probably be a type parameter. Again, it's not something that you're going to be changing all that often on, especially not on one building. So you go here for name, let's call it glass thickness, and make it a type parameter. It's a dimension parameter. Go OK, OK again, and now if we go here to family types, we can actually change it. So go here for glass thickness, and we can change this to, I don't know, 3 millimeters, hit apply, and as you can see, it kind of moved just a little bit, but because it's 3 millimeters, it's not much. Just go OK, and now let's select that extrusion and let's add a material. Now I want the glass material to be able to change as well. Maybe you want to change some other colored glass, a more reflective glass, less reflective glass. I think that option should be left to the final user of the family to choose to change. So for that, let's go here to the material and let's create another parameter. Now if we choose this material parameter, it will just take the same white PVC material for the window. That's not something we want. We want a new parameter, and let's just call it the glass, and let's call it a type parameter. Go OK, OK again, and go here into family types. We have another material over here. It says glass, and let's change that to glass. And actually this, it says material, and I just realized that's quite stupid to have a parameter for a material that's called material. So let's call it frame. So I'm just going to select that, go into edit parameter, and let's call it frame. And go OK. So it says here that it's materials, and it's just for the frame or for the glass. Hit apply, OK, and as you can see now this turned into glass. And just to make sure that it's going to change with the dimensions of the window, we need to flex it. So let's change this to, I don't know, 1600 by 1000. Hit apply, and maybe change this to 120. hit apply again, and change this to 5, hit apply again, and then just zoom in just to make sure that nothing is out of place. Okay, everything seems fine, so our window is looking great already. Now, one more thing we need to finish this window off, or to make it look a bit more realistic, we need to add a handle. Now, to model a handle, it would be really difficult to do it inside of this family because handle needs to move with the frame of the window. So handle will be placed somewhere along the frame of the window, and then when you change the dimensions, if we go like this, when you change the dimensions, if it's just here in empty space, the handle would stay over here and the window would move. So a good way to avoid this is to create a new family for a handle and then nest that family inside of this family. So those are those nested families. So we're just going to be creating in a family for this handle, and then just to load it in. Now we need to take a look at this window frame. So the handle should be on the interior side. Let's change the scale a bit to 1 to 20. Okay, so here's the interior side, and somewhere over here is where the handle should be. And for that, let's measure this distance. So from here to here we have around 38 millimeters, and if I go here to interior, yeah, let's measure again. Yeah, I have around 38 millimeters to work with. So we have some space over here on which to place that handle, and it's actually a flat face. So let's create that handle as a face-based family. So when we load it in, we can actually host it on this here face of the moving part of the window. So you just need to go here to File, New, and then go to Family, and let's search for a template that's going to allow us to host our family on a certain face that we choose. So I'm just going to scroll down over here, find a metric generic, and we have some adaptive, ceiling-based, face-based. Okay, this is the one that we want to use. The metric generic model face-based. Go Open. And here we go. Now if I go into 3D, you're going to notice that we have this kind of a extrusion or a generic model. This is just something that's representing the face on which our family is going to be hosted, or our handle. This will be, in our case, the window, and now we just need to place a handle over here. So let's just go here to reference level, and here we have these two reference planes just to help us out. And first let's create that little plate that's usually underneath the handle, that you have on pretty much any door ever. So let's just go here to create extrusion, and you're just immediately it's going to be set. If I go here to set reference plane to ref level, that's the one that we want to use. That's the face of this family. And then let's just go with the rectangle. Now let's set these dimensions to something that's going to be fitting within those 38 millimeters. So maybe the whole plate can be, I don't know, something like 30 millimeters. So go with 15 on this side, then 30 on this side. And for the height we can go maybe with a bit more. So let's go, I don't know, something like 25 here, and then this should be 50. Let's go 50 like that. Okay, and now I'm just going to fillet these edges. So go here to fillet arc, select that, and here for the radius, let's go, I don't know, with 6 millimeters, or yeah, let's go with 6. And then let's just fillet these edges. Okay, so once we have this plate, let's go here with the extrusion end, and let's set it at something like 5 millimeters, hit enter, and let's finish. Now, if I go here into 3D and zoom in, okay, so here as you can see, we've got that little plate. Now, when I select this plate, here we can set the extrusion end for the plate, and if I want to turn that into the parameter, I could go over here and go associate family parameter. But let me show you another way you can do that. Now, you can either go here for creating a parametric extrusion, go over here and create a new parameter, or what you can also do is go to maybe one of the elevations, probably the front elevation is the best, zoom in over here, go to create, create a reference plane, just going like this, and let's call it plate, hit enter, and let's set the height of this at, I don't know, at 5 millimeters. Okay, now we can turn this temporary dimension into a real dimension just by clicking over here. It says make a temporary dimension permanent. Okay, there we go. Let's move it a bit. Oops, I moved something wrong, so let me go back. Okay, so it's too large, so let's change the scale a bit to 1:5. Okay, so now we can move this out of the way a bit, and then we can select this dimension and turn it into a parameter. I think that would be a different way to create this extrusion and make the extrusion parametric. So I'm just going to go here to new parameter, and let's call this plate thickness. Okay, and let's make it a type parameter, because of course you don't really need more of these different types or instances. So I'm just going to go OK, and now if I go to change this thickness parameter, go here and let's change it to 6 millimeters, hit apply. As you can see, only the reference plane changed its position, but not this extrusion. So what you need to do is you need to select this front face of the extrusion and then just move it up a bit and then just kind of attach it like this. As you can see, it kind of snaps to the reference plane. Let it snap and then lock it in place. And once you've done that, now if we go and change this to maybe 4 millimeters, hit apply, and as you can see now it's thinner according to that reference plane's position. So those are basically the two approaches into creating parametric extrusions. You can either go by selecting it and going here in the properties and changing and creating a parameter over here, or you can create a reference plane or some sort of a construction, I guess you would call it, that allows you to control the position of your geometry by adding a parameter in form of a dimension line. Okay, so once we have this, let's now create the actual handle. That's why we're here. And for that, let's go first to reference level and let's select this plane just to see what its name is. So if I go over here to the side, it's called center front back, and that's what we're going to be using. And for the handle, I want it to look kind of organic a bit. So for that, let me use if I go here to create, we have this swept blend. So that's the one I want to use. So you just need to scroll down, go back to front elevation, and here let's go to swept blend. And here for now, let's first set the reference plane and let's set to that center front back. Now again, as I said, Revit is usually going to kind of either go with the last one you used or go according to the view you're in. So here we're in a view where we're looking at this center front back, so it's offering us this reference plane, but I just like to make sure to go to set a reference plane and just hit OK, just to make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, so now to create this, let's go back to modify swept blend, go with sketch path, and for this I'm just going to be using the spline. So just go one click over here, then maybe one click over here, then something like this, one like this, and then maybe extend it over here like that. And it's going to look weird like this, it's not going to stop, so just go here to the modify, and then it stops and goes back into the last position. Now you can select it and play around with it if you want to make some additional changes, but let's create those profiles. So let's go into 3D. For swept blends, usually I like to work in 3D for creating the profiles. And here, let's just go with finishing the sketch mode. And let's go with profile 1, that's going to be this profile. So when you select profile 1, one of them is going to become blue and the other one will stay green. So you know profile 1 is the active one and that's the blue one. And then you just go here into edit profile, let's go with an ellipse. So I'm just going to go kind of like this and give it some proper thickness. Okay, so we have that, and then just go finish, go with profile 2, edit profile, and then let's go with another ellipse. Now this one is going to be a bit thinner, a bit smaller, kind of like that. Okay, so now I can hit finish, finish again, and there we go. We have our handle, and it looks pretty good. Now, before we load this into our project, what I like to do is set a material parameter again. So I'm just going to select this and go here to material, and let's create a parameter. Now, to be able to kind of create this parameter that can be attached to other parameters within our second family, our window family, and all of that is going to make sense in just a moment, but we need to really create this as an instance parameter. So here I'm just going to name it handle, I guess, or maybe just material. Yeah, I think that will work. Just make sure that's an instance parameter, go OK, OK again, and you don't really have to set anything up over here. Just go apply, OK, and there we go. So now let's load this into the project. So just go load into project, and let's go with window. Just go OK, and here we are. Now we need to go to the interior side on which it will be placed. Then go here to create tab and find set reference plane. Now again, we have this warning. Let's just cancel out of that, and let's go over here. Now go pick a plane, because again, this is one of those planes that we don't really have a reference plane for, so we don't have a name. Just go OK, zoom in over here, and let's pick that big face. Okay, so once we have that, let's go to component, open that up, and here we have our handle family. Now we can zoom in over here and kind of place it like this. Now this is kind of in space currently, and that's a problem. We really need to position it in the right place, because now if I go ahead and just kind of flex this family, maybe go like this and change this height to, or width to 120, hit apply, go OK, and as you can see now the handle is here in space. If I go into 3D, it's at the right plane, but it's in the wrong position. So let me go back to the interior side and let's move it maybe a bit over here. And now let's add some geometry or some reference planes that are going to help it keep in place. So now I'm going to go here to create reference plane, place one like this horizontally, and then go DI for dimension, or just find dimension, and then create a dimension like this. Place it and then hit EQ. What this EQ is going to allow you is that if we change the height parameter, these two will always stay the same, so this reference plane will always be in the middle of the height parameter. So if I go here and change the height parameter to, I don't know, 800, hit apply, and as you can see, this line is now again in the middle. So let's just undo out of that. And also we need a line over here to which we can attach this this handle. So let's go here with create reference plane, and let's do one in the middle of this. And if you can't find the middle of this line, what I suggest you do, what I prefer to do, is just go here to annotate, go with a simple symbolic line, place it like this over here, then go back to create reference plane, and there you go. So just create one reference plane like this. And then for this one, we just need to lock it in place. This dimension will never change. So for that, just go here with dimension, dimension this thing, place it there, lock it in place, and there we go. So this will always stay the same. And now we can just flex everything just to make sure that it works. So let's change the width to, I don't know, 110, hit apply, okay, and there we go. So let's move this a bit away over here. Okay, so we need to attach this handle to these two, the intersection of these two reference planes. So again, go to the Align tool, AL, or just go here to the Modify tab and find Align, and you hit the vertical one. Then you hover over this family, and as you can see, you're going to get this vertical line. That's just that center line, and just lock it in place over there. Then do the same thing horizontally. First the reference plane, then our handle, lock it in place. Now once our handle is over here, let's go into 3D, and as you're going to notice, the handle is gray. That's because we don't have any material assigned to it. So now we can use that parameter for a material that we created. So I can just select this handle, and over here we have that materials and finishes, we have that material, and we can go over here to our associate with family parameter, and we can create a new parameter, or what's even better in this case, usually, or in pretty much most cases, you're going to have your handle be from the same material as your window frame. So for that, just go here and select frame, hit OK, and if I just deselect it, you're going to notice that now it's the same PVC material as we have here on the door frame. So it's just going to take that same material, and if you change later on the material of the frame, the material of the handle, even though it's a nested family, will change as well. So that's something you always want to have. Before we finish this family, let's talk a bit about visibility settings. Now, this is a topic that I talked in depth in my advanced graphics in Revit course. That's the previous one I did. So I suggest you check that course out, that topic about visibility settings for families and the detail levels. But here I'm just going to set for this here the handle. So I want this handle to be visible whenever we're either here on the detail level, that's fine, or medium, but in coarse detail level, I'm guessing you don't need to see the handle, so I'm just going to make it invisible in those detail levels. So for that, you just need to go here you need to select the handle or any element that you want to adjust the visibility settings. You go here into visibility settings and then just uncheck coarse. So that just means that when it's in coarse mode, like this, it's not going to appear. And now in this case it is appearing because we're in the family editor, but usually it shouldn't in the project. So here I'm just going to leave it at define detail, the level of detail. Now we have our window family pretty much finished. Now we need to create some types. So let's go over here to the family editor or family types, and let's make some changes. Okay, so we have this one, the height at 1600 and this at 1100. And the depth offset is left at this. Now for the depth offset, I'm not going to be changing that for this type. It's always going to stay the same, and then you can change it later on when you place this window into your wall. But let's make some changes for the height and width parameters, and maybe some materials. So to create a new type of a window, that's the same thing like here in the project. Let's go perhaps in one of these projects. Okay, so when I select this window and I open up the drop menu, you're going to see that we have that window family, and we have multiple types, multiple sizes of the window. So let's do the same thing for our window family. So here we are, family types, and then you need to go here and create a new type. Now let's call it, I don't know, 1600 by 1100. Yeah, very creative. And let's call this one PVC. And then hit OK, so we have that one. Then let's create a new one. So go new type, and let's call it the same dimension by 1100, and let's call this ALU for aluminum. Go OK, and now for this one, we're just going to change the frame from PVC to aluminum. Find here aluminum, let's go with this one, hit apply, OK. So if we now just make sure you hit apply. Okay, so now if we go to PVC, it's going to say PVC, and if we go to aluminum, it's going to say aluminum. And then let's maybe create a few more types. So let's go with, I don't know, 1400 by 900 ALU. Hit OK. Now you need to change these dimensions. So 1400 by 900, and it's already at aluminum. So just go here, apply. Now it's smaller. And then let's create a new one at the same dimensions, just make it PVC. So PVC, go OK, and let's change the material back to PVC for this one. And just to make sure that it works, let's turn this into realistic, and then go here into edit type, family types, and then just change this to maybe ALU, hit apply. Now it's aluminum. Now change it over here to this PVC. Now it's bigger and it's PVC. So as you can see, our family works. Okay, so we have all of that set. Now some other parameters that you usually want to set for these, especially if you're doing this for some manufacturer that wants to use this family to attract new buyers for their products. What I'm going to show you now is how to create some settings that are going to be very beneficiary to your manufacturer. But before that, let's just look at these analytical properties. This is again something that manufacturers like to have at their families. So we have some analytical construction. So this is just going to help you when creating some analysis, usually some thermal analysis in Revit. You want to just make sure that it has the right analytical construction. So you just need to find the type of window that you have. So let's just say that here we have, I don't know, something like, let's see what we have, single glazing. Yeah, let's go with, I don't know, this one, for example, 3mm or maybe 4. And as you can see over here, we're going to get some basic parameters that we need for analytical models in Revit. So just make sure you set that. Now, this is not something that you're going to decide yourself. I suggest you contact the manufacturer that you're working for and then just ask them what they would prefer to have over here to make those analyses in Revit later on a lot more precise. Okay, let's scroll down a bit more. Now, here we have an option for identity data, and if you don't have this, you can collapse it, make it larger. Okay, so you can change the keynote, the model, so we can call this, I don't know, the name of the model, you type it in over here, let's call it new window. Then for the manufacturer, let's call it Balkan Windows. And then here you can type some comments, new version, just some information that a user might like to use. Now here you can add a type image. This is cool, so you can go over here and then you can download an image of your window, and then you can have it over here, so when you're creating maybe schedules for quantities, you can actually add a image of the window in that schedule. So I'm just going to click over here and you're going to get this manage images dialog, and we only have this detail image that we used for the family, but I'm just going to go here to add and then find I have this PVC window image that I found online that looks similar to this window, so I'm just going to open that up and we have this image and just go OK. And so this image is added. So later on, when somebody wants to create a window schedule in Revit, they can add a column with images for those windows, and then you can have your manufacturer's kind of high quality image of their window in that schedule. Okay, so we have that, and this is the most important part, and that's the URL. So you need to find a page on which your manufacturer has more information on this window, and you need to add this here. That's what's going to make this window family in Revit sell actual windows in real life. So you need to ask your manufacturer, okay, which is the website that you're using, which is the URL to the page on which it's located, and then they'll send you the link and you just copy and paste that link over here. You can also ask them for some sort of a description, assembly code, cost. You can maybe add here, I don't know, it costs 100 of something, and you can just add that cost over there as well. Now, if I scroll up a bit over here, one more important part, and that's the wall closure. Now, this we can't really see right now, but when I load this family into the Revit project, I'm going to explain what that means. Okay, so let me just hit apply to save all of these changes, hit OK, and now let's just save it for a second just to make sure that we don't lose it, and let's load it into the project. So just go here, load into project. Let's go with this project 2 that we have. We already have a couple of windows over here, so let's add our new window over here. Okay, we need to save this project as well. Let's cancel out of that for now. Okay, so here we have our window. It looks really good. It's just facing the wrong side, so let's spin it around. Okay, now it's facing the correct side. And if we select this window family, as you can see here on our properties panel, we can adjust that depth offset. So I want this window to be kind of in line with these insulation layers, so I can actually use the measure tool, measure from here to here. Okay, it's 90 millimeters, so I can select my window and go over here, type in 90, and that should align it, and there you go. So now it's aligned, and we're having some better thermal efficiency values going on over here, instead of kind of having it aligned to the front of the wall. That you shouldn't be like that. Okay, so once we have that, and as you can see here, we have a very nice detail of this, all of the voids inside of this, all of those chambers. And if you did the extra work of adding those to this moving part of the frame, that would be great as well. Okay, now let's talk about that option where we can kind of play around with wall layers. So I'm going to go back to the 3D view, basically to my family, and open up this family types dialog, and here, and now it says by host for the wall closure, but we can change it, and let's say for now interior. Hit apply, okay, and now just look at the way that these layers are being finished. So we have some inside finish layer over here, maybe some gypsum wall board or something like that, and it's just finishing over here. And usually it doesn't work like that in real life. Usually kind of layers need to kind of fold around your window when you're finishing it off like this. Usually you don't have concrete exposed at your windows. So let's see what this change will make. Okay, so go here, load into project just to make that change, and you just go here, override the existing version with its parameter values, hit apply, and as you can see now, this this finish layer is kind of moving towards the inside, and it's finishing at the wall center line. So if I select this wall, you can see this dot over here. That basically means that here is the wall center line, and it's basically moving all the way to the wall center line. And we can do the same thing for the outside layer. So if I just go back to my window family, go here into family types and change this to maybe both. So both interior and exterior, hit apply, okay, go back, or sorry, load into project, okay, override, and as you can see now, this is kind of being spinning around and finishing over here. So those are some of the options that you can play around with just with these wall layers. Now I prefer to have only the interior one for this window, so I'm just going to go back, go here, and for wall closure, let's just go interior, hit apply, okay, load into project 2, override, and there we go. Okay, so we have our window, and we can play around with it, we can select it, we can go here into edit type. Here we have all of those materials, so we can play around with materials, or we can open up the drop menu and maybe change it. Maybe it should be the smaller window, or maybe, and this one is out of aluminum, so you can see it changed. Everything except the glass is now changed, even the handle. Or let's select it again, change it again maybe to something like PVC. Now it's white, and again, there we go. So that's our window. Now let's go into 3D to see what that looks like. Okay, so there's the window that we created, and in my opinion, it's the best out of these three. And before we finish this course, just one more thing. Remember when we set those visibility settings for the handle of the window? If I just go over here and change it from medium to coarse, that handle is going to disappear, just because in coarse view we really don't need to see that that much details. Okay, so there you go. That's the window that we created. Let's delete the rest of this. The window will be available with the exercise files as well as all of the additional families, so that profile family, the handle family, as well as those two images that I loaded in, and the project in which this is placed. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this window course. I hope you have enjoyed it, and that's it. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in another course.